This is Jackie Weisfield. I am presenting the case study for EDL 853, when a student's rights are wronged. So I'm summarizing the facts of the case, so reporting on what we know. What we know is this, is that Miguel Hernandez was injured playing football in the last regular game of the season. Had they won, they would go to the semifinals. Miguel returned to school after months of rehabilitation, and it's said that he's kept up with his studies during that time. Miguel and his parents wanted Miguel to return to school as soon as he was medically cleared because they were looking for that support that he can get from school, both emotionally and physically. And then Miss Gussman, the counselor, had a meeting with Miguel's parents prior to Miguel's return, and I've met with both Miguel's parents and his lawyer, and the concern that came out at that meeting was that they want Miguel in the biology class that he was in prior to the injury. So there's a couple things, though, that we still need to know, and one of those is that what does it mean that he's kept up with his studies? How does that look over the course of months? And specifically, if we're talking about a biology class, what is it that he's done to keep up with biology? Is that something that the school has provided him, that he's done on his own? Was it an online situation? What did that look like? We also need to know what Miss Gussman's conversation with the parents looked like, sounded like. Was a 504 offered at that point and declined? Was a 504 even mentioned? So what was the content of that conversation? And the other question is, what are Miguel's parents really looking for? Are they looking for just allowing Miguel into the biology class? Or, I mean, if they've already contacted a lawyer, are they looking to press charges against someone for the injury? Are they looking for compensation? What are they looking for out of the situation? So the legal and ethical issues are really around compliance with laws to protect the disabled. And the school is out of compliance with Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, not allowing Miguel to take a biology class based on the fact that he's in a wheelchair and he can't access the classroom is really discrimination just based on disability, and is not providing him a free and appropriate public education. Asking him to take another class that he hasn't been taking, that he hadn't experienced, and just saying, here, you're going to go into this class, is not the most appropriate education for him. Compliance with IDEIA, limiting the educational benefit based on disability. We are limiting, if we don't allow him to take this college preparatory class, we are limiting his educational benefit in the classroom. And then even compliance with ADA. There's a clause called the otherwise qualified clause, and that again is where putting Miguel in a random science class he's not qualified to take. He hasn't been pursuing those studies prior to this. He doesn't have the background information. He hasn't worked with the content before, so he's not otherwise qualified to take that class. And then a quarter of the buildings are also not ADA accessible. So the synthesis of the situation: the school and the district are definitely out of compliance with the laws that protect students who use wheelchairs, and they are not providing equitable educational opportunities for all students. So this is not to say that the school is completely out of compliance with IDEA or 504s, but definitely for students who use wheelchairs. So in terms of the facts, synthesis of the key players, the location, and the programming, the key players are definitely Miguel Hernandez, his parents. Their lawyer is sort of an outside player, Miss Gussman, the counselor, and me as the principal. And the questions that are still outstanding is what was the conversation between Miss Gussman and the Hernandez family? What does the Hernandez family really want? And why is Mr. Carey involved? Is this looking to go further than just a biology class? Because to be able to get a lawyer to a meeting seems like you've been contacting a lawyer and in the process of finding a lawyer for much longer than just the day that the class was changed. Nottingham High serves 3,200 students. A quarter of the buildings do not meet current building codes for ADA compliance, but there's also very strong community support for the school. And there are several outstanding questions I have about that, one of which is where are the classrooms that hold biology classes? Are they on a second or third floor that's inaccessible? Or what exactly makes the biology room inaccessible? The other question that I have in terms of trying to problem solve is, are there other locations where the class could be held? Are there other rooms that we could have the biology class in that are accessible? The programming based on the case study reading is a college preparatory program that definitely prepares students to go to college. It's a very traditional curriculum. They have sports. They have outstanding results. That's why the Hernandezes moved to Dover. And it is a public school. So the other programming questions I have is, if we're doing a college preparatory curriculum, traditional curriculum, serving 3,200 students, how many biology classes are there? There's definitely more than one, and more than one teacher. How did Miguel keep up with his studies in biology while he was out? Just to make sure that he really is on track and that we're not putting him in a situation where he's going to fail. And what other options are there for his schedule? So prioritizing the information based on impact of stakeholders. The lawsuit and building updates could impact school finance for the school and district. That impacts all the stakeholders in the school system, because if we are spending money on lawsuits and building updates, that means we're not spending it elsewhere. So that will impact all the way from pre-K up to grade 12. It will impact teachers and how many teachers we can hire. It will impact any other changes that we can make to other buildings. There's lots of financial impact if there's a lawsuit or if we're required to do building updates. Coming into compliance with ADA will definitely impact future students and employees. Coming into compliance for a quarter of the buildings with ADA is not something that's going to happen overnight. That's more of a long-term solution. But it will also impact community members who may also be in wheelchairs. And they will be able to better access the school. Changing Miguel's schedule, Miguel and his family are immediately impacted. And what I need is more from Ms. Gussman. What was the conversation? What was offered? Who advocated for the family? Does the family even know what benefits a 504 might provide? I need to contact appropriate district personnel, so the director of student services. Maybe we end up going through legal counsel, but the appropriate district personnel needs to be contacted. And I truly believe there's enough information to make an immediate decision and accommodations for Miguel. So the options as I see them, are you do nothing, which really potentially brings a lawsuit. It impacts Miguel's education and future opportunities if he's not allowed to take the biology class. The other extreme would be bringing the buildings up to current code, and that has a huge financial impact, but also creates a culture of equity and is a much more long-term solution. Moving the biology class might actually create a strained relationship with the teacher, having the teacher have to move and have 2 different classrooms to teach in, or having teachers move classrooms in the middle of the year could definitely strain some teacher relationships. Online biology, which has the potential to isolate Miguel from his peers, but does allow him to take the class. Concurrent enrollment may be an option as well, where he could take something through the community college, but that may be too advanced for a sophomore, but is a consideration we might want to look into. And then rearranging Miguel's entire schedule, which has the potential to make Miguel's transition more difficult because we're changing his peer group and his teachers potentially. So if we're evaluating the options, the do nothing option, the pros are that I show Ms. Gussman that I trust that she's making the decisions that need to be made. The cons are that Miguel's not getting what he needs to be college ready, and a lawsuit is a burden to the school and the district. Bringing the buildings up to current code is a long-term solution, definitely exciting for future students and staff to have accessible facilities. The cons would be that it's expensive and time intensive. Moving the biology class, the pro would definitely be that Miguel can take the class, and that eliminates this specific problem. The cons being there's more burden on the teacher if he or she has to change rooms. Online biology, Miguel gets to take the class, but he is isolated from his peers, which brings up that potentially being a 504 violation, just because he is not in a classroom with general education students. Concurrent enrollment, a pro being that Miguel can take the class and earn college credit. The con is that there's another financial impact on the school because the school has to pay for that. And then rearranging Miguel's entire schedule, the pros being that Miguel can take all the classes he needs in the most accessible rooms. The cons being that he may have different teachers and classmates. So that transition may be a little bit more difficult for Miguel. My solution is allowing Miguel to take the biology class in a class of his peers as a short-term solution, with a plan to push a bond measure as soon as possible to make the remainder of the buildings ADA compliant. If we have a community that is so supportive of the high school and the school district in general, we need to use that and push a bond and maybe actually ask for Miguel and his family's help in getting that bond to pass. So the plan, how I would do this, the first thing I'm doing is talking to district level personnel. So that would be student services, that would be the superintendent, that would be any legal counsel. So I'm talking to the district level personnel, telling them about the meeting that I had, and talking about this plan and next steps. I also need to talk to Ms. Gussman, find out more about that conversation that she had prior to the family re-entering, and again, what was offered in terms of 504 accommodations. And I want to call the parents in, bringing in district level personnel and student services to talk to parents and the family about their rights, really becoming an advocate for the parents and a partner for the parents, talking to parents about the 504 options, talking to parents about rearranging Miguel's schedule, and in that conversation, having multiple options for them. I also want to talk to the teachers once we decide about the schedule and help teachers assure Miguel is caught up to where he needs to be if he was doing a bunch of independent study while he was out. Finally, I want to ensure regular contact with the family until the transition is complete. That's my implementation plan. That's my analysis of the case study. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks.